Welcome to the webinar. My name is Becky, as Kylie says. I'm the Head of Innovation for the CoSTAR National Lab and for the National Film and Television School. I'm going to run you through the agenda and what we're going to speak about today. We've got a few short presentations up front to talk about the call, and then we're going to open up to the Q&A. Before we do that, I'd like to invite my colleagues to introduce themselves, starting with Frank, please.
Hey, thanks, Becky. Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Frank Lyons. I'm Dean of Research and Innovation at Ulster University, and I'm a co-director of the CoSTAR Screen Lab.
And next, Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay, and I am the project coordinator at the CoSTAR Screen Lab here in Belfast.
And Gerard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gerard Dunleavy. I'm the creative technologist at Ulster University.
And Adnan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adnan. I'm the School of Engineering, and I lead Advanced Wireless Technologies Lab at Ulster University as well.
Okay. And finally, Kieran.
I don't think Kieran is here just yet, so he'll be joining the meeting soon, and he is our marketing and comms officer for the CoSTAR project.
Lovely, thank you. All right, just going to bring up a presentation.
One moment, we're just sharing that. Here we go.
Lovely. All right, welcome to the webinar on the 5G Innovation in Screen Technologies call. It's being run by the CoSTAR Screen Lab with support from the National Lab. I'll just run through the agenda and then I'll say a little bit more about the CoSTAR programme in general. Next slide, please. Sorry, please forgive us, we skip forward. So the agenda. So today I will talk a bit about the CoSTAR programme and the access programme. So this pilot call that we're running today is one of the access programmes that the CoSTAR National Lab is running. So I'll give you a bit of context about that. And then Frank, Lindsay, Gerard and Adnan are going to talk to you about the Screen Lab call specifically and what it can what's on offer to companies and who we're looking for, and what sort of companies should apply, and some practical considerations to think about. We'll run through the key dates and then we'll move straight to Q&A for answer your questions. Next slide, please. So the CoSTAR network is a national R&D network for creative technologies. We are a set of 5 labs that are based around the UK. The National Lab, where I'm based, is based in Buckinghamshire. We'll be opening a studio next year at Pinewood Studios. We have the Live Lab up in Wakefield, based at Production Park, led by the University of York. And that focuses on live performance, on the live performance area. We have the Real Time Lab up in Dundee, that's led by Abertay University. And the Foresight Lab, which is led by Goldsmiths University and focuses on capturing and disseminating industry knowledge and trends. And last but not least, we have the Screen Lab, which is the focus of this call, which is led by Ulster University and is based at Studio Ulster. And I will let the team talk in a lot more detail about Screen Lab's focus and areas of expertise in a moment. But we are essentially a set of 4 physical labs, plus the 5th, the Foresight Lab, that's based, as I say, talking about industry trends and generating insight. And they are 4 really important infrastructure, a set of really important infrastructure for the UK creative industries. And but those 4 labs are not identical, so they all have their own areas of specialism, and they're very recently opened, and we're all really excited to get working with the industries that we serve. If we move to the next slide. So alongside the physical infrastructure that we have and the research expertise that wraps around that from all the universities involved, we have a set of access programs that we run to try and help companies to access the infrastructure, to engage with industry and help encourage business growth and research and development as well. So we have 2 categories of access programs. The first is enterprise and commercialization, and the second is prototypes and pilots. We skip forward. So the enterprise and commercialization program is one that runs in parallel with the pilots programs and is really focused on the formation and growth of creative industries, startups and SMEs, and helps to encourage business growth in the sector. It's just closed its very first call called CoSTAR Ideate. There'll be a set of other calls if you're interested in this area that will be running over the next few years, so keep an eye out for those. And then we have pilots and prototypes program, which is the focus. This call is an example of one of these programs. And these are calls to help encourage research and development in the area. We have the next slide. So the Prototypes and Pilots programme is a £3 million fund in total to be split over 5 years to help demonstrate and develop the benefits of the new CoSTAR infrastructure. So we are essentially we'll be running calls for the industry can respond to that helps them to access our infrastructure, whether that be the physical infrastructure or the research expertise as well, and cash funding alongside this to help to create research and development projects that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So it helps industry to start conducting more research and development activity in the creative industries, but it also helps us to start rolling out and testing and developing our research infrastructure that we have at the CoSTAR programme. But ultimately, it's to help firms to access the equipment, the technologies, the expertise that we have on the CoSTAR programme. And each pilot call that we do will have a different theme. Some of them are focused around specific labs and specific areas of the industry, specific sectors, whether that might be in the screen industries or the live performance industry. But we also have different technical specialisms as well. And this is a good example of that, where we have a focus, for example, around 5G. Okay, next slide. I'm going to hand now over to the Screen Lab team to talk to you about this specific call and what we're looking for here. And then we'll move very quickly to your questions afterwards. Thanks. Frank or Lindsay?
I'll take it away, Becky. Thanks a million for that introduction. So, yeah, we have a few of our core team here today. So, just some of you on the call will know this anyway because I recognise some of your names. But the CoSTAR Screen Lab is a dedicated R&D facility that's based right at the heart of a much bigger virtual production facility located at Belfast Harbour Studios. Called Studio Ulster. It's a £75 million virtual production facility that very recently opened and has had a number of very, very high profile commercial productions go through the facilities at this point in time. And we've already used the CoSTAR R&D lab as part of some of those productions. So it really is this very interesting combination of spaces that accommodate commercial activity at the very highest level. We're talking, Netflix, Warner, HBO, Universal, and so on, even up to this point. So you've got that commercial activity, which really drives a lot of the problems and the challenges that we're hoping to address in the very dedicated facilities that we have in the Screen Lab. So, as I say, some of the team are here already, and you've heard very brief introductions from them. So, we've also got a list of, and we'll talk about this in more detail, a list of co-investigators with a range of expertise, and that ranges from professors and academic lecturers through to creative technologists and some other sort of technical staff. So next slide, please. So yeah, in terms of the actual facility itself that you would be working in if you're successful in this particular competition, we've got a brand new R&D stage. So it's got the LED wall. It's also got a ceiling and also an LED floor, which all that LED is the highest specification you can actually get in the industry. Row panels at 2.2 millimeter pixel pitch. That's very recently been installed by Nant Studios as part of our wider facility. So incredibly high resolution, incredibly cutting edge LED wall, ceiling and floor. All the latest processors. It's got Vicon tracking in there, and Gerard and Adnan can maybe come on and speak with a wee bit more detail about the actual sort of camera equipment and the particular aspects of the 5G kit that we're going to come on to. But I'll maybe just leave that for now. And in terms of expertise, as I say, you will have access. Gerard's on the call here. He's a university creative technologist, but we've also just closed the recruitment competition for a dedicated CoSTAR Screen Lab creative technologist. So you will have access to that very dedicated technical expertise, as well as academic and industry expertise that covers all sorts of areas, including virtual production, motion capture, different elements of VFX, and most specifically for this call, the 5G capability. So next slide, please. So each of the network labs were asked to identify their own areas of focus for this first PPP call. We've in recent times been working on a very large scale DCIT funded project called 5G Film Anywhere, and over the course of the last year or so we've managed to pull together what we would consider as probably the most advanced set of 5G and 6G capable equipment, and also a very, very high expert team which covers expertise, as I say, from that sort of creative aspect of creative technologies right through to much more hardcore engineering capabilities, which covers, as I say, a number of faculties in the university. So we're really focused, and we've got a lot of momentum, a lot of energy around the whole kind of 5G and the creative industries piece. We've been working very specifically on the 5G Film Anywhere project, which has essentially been where we have been exploring real-time, multi-site, collaborative, interactive virtual production capability using mobile 5G equipment. And what over the past year or something, what has happened is that while we were very focused on this sort of multi-site pre-vis production and post-production area, a number of other potential use cases have presented themselves and continue to do so. It's such a rich vein of untapped research potential. So what we're looking for are, we haven't been very specific, very deliberately we haven't been specific, because we want to really encourage some blue sky thinking around the potential applications of 5G in the creative industry. So we've got a bullet pointed list here. That's not exhaustive in any way, shape or form. It's not restrictive in terms of you on the call might have your own different ideas how this might work. But these are a number of the areas that have sort of presented themselves over the past year or so to us that we haven't really explored in that much depth yet. So particularly around the low latency data transfer around the studio environments, and that could be in relation to automated LED wall configuration. Ours is the only real-time configurable LED wall in the large studio space in Studio Ulster. So there's potential to look at there. There's obviously a lot of potential in the whole area of camera tracking as well, high volume real-time motion capture, 3D and 4D scanning applications, and one area that's really presented itself quite recently to us that we've already assembled a team of expertise around is this whole idea of spatial audio in the whole virtual production piece. And of course there's the more well-known areas of AI and ML applications in real-time studio environments as well. So that's a very, very quick overview of the kind of capability that we have here. The successful applicants, what we'll do is we'll work with them over the course of, Kylie will go over a lot of this detail and much in a lot more sort of specific detail. But this project we're hoping will start 1st of September. And what it will mean is, the successful applicants will have up to 2 intensive 1-week development sprints at the CoSTAR Screen Lab. Whilst you'll be based in the CoSTAR Screen Lab, you will potentially have access, if you need it, to some of the other spaces, some of the other stages that are in Studio Ulster, including the 3 and 4D scanning, the motion capture, and some of the other LED volume spaces. And as I mentioned, as well as those 2 one-week intensive sprints, our team will be available. You will be trained up, and you will have that sort of onboarding and orientation period with specific people. And in addition, you will also have up to 10 days, we have specified, of more ad hoc support from specific members of the team, which will cover those areas of expertise. We've got up to 35k, two awards of 35k to contribute to costs. And again, we'll cover that in a lot more detail. A lot of those details are also available on the call website. So I'll maybe hand over to Adnan first, maybe to speak more specifically about the actual 5G capability in terms of the mobile equipment that we've recently acquired, and then maybe over to Gerard, and he can talk about. Gerard's been our guru in terms of the actual camera, the scanner capability, and so on, and how it all speaks in 5G language. So maybe over to you, Adnan, first, if you want to talk about the specifics of our mobile and our closed 5G network.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, so we have 2 5G networks available. One of them is installed indoor in the studio. We are looking at N77 band more specifically. Again, I think from the last couple of months, we're looking at how native 5G devices can be connected on the actual 5G network. But on the other side, if we don't have it, there is a certain way we can translate those devices onto the 5G network as well. So this can also be done. The other exciting piece we have in terms of the 5G is the mobile 5G private network. What does this mean is that we can take it to outside of the studio, any remote location, and then we have resources in terms of the power and backhaul, which can allow us to connect to the studio from any remote location as well. In terms of the capabilities, both networks are very high specs. They can support MIMO, which means that we can transmit very high data rate with a high data rate as well, which also directly proportional to how much latency we can achieve. Again, depend upon the application and scenarios, the networks, they can be configured. We do have option from optical fiber all the way to the satellite links as well. We can sort of play and manage the latency depends on the application, and also in terms of how many devices we can connect per 5G network, that can also be managed, and it's very flexible. So in summary, it's more like a very flexible, configurable kind of a setup we have in both indoor 5G network and the portable one. I'm very confident that we can accommodate a variety of use cases to see how 5G can function for them and how it can help them to accelerate in whatever application they want to build it further.
Thank you, Adnan. Maybe hand over to Gerard now, maybe talk a bit more about the sort of peripheral kit and even specifically about how we've been using it thus far, and maybe potential applications that we haven't quite explored yet.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Adnan. Yeah, much like Adnan has mentioned, we've built a flexible kit of hardware and software to enable multiple use cases, some of which we've explored this past year. We focused primarily on video transmission from remote locations. We built a sort of end-to-end solution using top-of-the-line cinema cameras and the 5G equipment that Adnan had mentioned, and using that technology to broadcast essentially the footage from remote locations to a virtual production volume. But around that, we've built more capabilities that we haven't yet explored, so maybe that could be part of this call. We have mobile tracking solutions that we can bring with us, a number of robotic camera solutions, PTZ cameras, but also robotic arms that can be remotely controlled from anywhere. On top of that, we have very exciting brand new scanning equipment, LiDAR scanner, 360 vision-based LiDAR scanner, as well as a LiDAR-enabled drone. And we'd want to explore perhaps machine learning, Gaussian splats, nerfs, etc. And then with that, we have all the usual kind of peripherals that you would imagine to do with virtual production. So we have the compute, a lot of hardware compute, the tracking systems, as I mentioned. We have a MOSIS, but also a portable system, and Vicon, which is installed in Studio Ulster. And lastly, we obviously have the creative technologists who will be dedicated to the project and help bring your solutions, I suppose, to fruition.
Thank you, Gerard. And I can see in the chat that Kylie's keen to get participants involved. So I think we'll stop there, and I think the sooner we get the questions and specifics, the better. So over to you for questions.
Yes, we've got a couple of questions. I just think, Becky, did you want to wrap up anything, or is that at the end of the webinar you'll do that at the end of the webinar? Okay. Thank you. I think we've got a question from Vincent. And Vincent, lovely to see you. You've turned on your camera, which makes it even better. So I'm going to hand over to you to ask your own question. I think you might need to turn your microphone on. We're just checking how to do that. We can't currently hear you. Sorry about that. Can we turn Vincent's microphone on? There you go. We can hear you now. Oh,
okay.
Yes.
How's that? So yeah, I mean, as you can see, I wasn't born yesterday, as it were. I have a background in broadcast and drama, and I'm currently working with CoSTAR and with Future Screens. And thank you for the support. I'm just wondering, like, is what we would have referred to as live drama, like getting a couple of multi-cameras out in the street in the VP studio, or in the CoSTAR lab, and making a multi-site production, real-time live drama. Is that something that's maybe not too old-fashioned? Could we reinvent that through something like 5G, Frank, maybe?
Yeah, I'm going to take all these questions, by the way, and then allocate it to my colleagues who are much more knowledgeable about these things. I'll put that one over to Gerard. Gerard, if you want to take that one from Vince.
So Vincent, if I get you right, you're talking about multi-camera sort of live broadcast, but using 5G.
Yeah, like just to sort of, making it new again. Like, I mean, maybe using either the VP studio in the University of Ulster, a couple of cameras out in Royal Avenue in Belfast, maybe linking in with another site, creating a short script that uses all of these things, whether it's jumping from one world to another or just a traditional drama. I suppose Adolescence broke through there recently, and is there a live version of that to be had, or is that not in keeping with the technology, as it were, at the moment?
No, it's perfectly feasible, absolutely. It's whether, it supports your creative vision and what you want to do. But technically, yes, we can do that.
And is it up to date enough? Like, I mean, obviously, some of the things that I'm working on at the minute with Future Screens, it's kind of marrying more traditional formats with, putting them on the immersive screens and things like that. Is that something that might be viewed as old-fashioned, dare I say it? Live drama.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's fresh and the idea is good. I don't think anything's old-fashioned. But yeah, technically we can support you in that idea if that's what you want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Adnan, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just a quick comment to Vincent. So I guess we are looking at in two dimensions. One is the complete new use case, new application, which can use the 5G. But we are also looking into how we can question the traditional approaches. So we do have certain means that, let's say in the drama making or some other production means, they have a certain processes. So can we bring technology in, like of AI, 5G, or some other kind of edge processing, or can we fast track, then can we generate some new kind of framework and process it? So I think it's not the question of if it's an old way of looking into it or the new way, but can we bring up the framework? Because if you see that this has a direct impact in terms of how the UK wants to see the greener kind of a UK. Plus, we have many other indicators which can be brought into it. So it's a question of lifting the industry to another level to see, can we do much better? Can we do much faster? Can we do much cheaper? Can we do more greener? So that's the framework. So I think you what you mentioned is perfectly fit for that.
Yeah, and I think the spatial audio, we did some stuff with Michael McKnight during COVID through Future Screens in 360 filming, and that's something that could possibly plug into this as well. Yeah, thanks very much for that, guys.
I just wanted to ask a question that's often commonly asked as well of the team. What stage in development are you looking for companies, given that comment about, good ideas? We're always balancing the balance between using the technology and the good ideas, but how does that then fit in the stage of development you're looking for?
Yeah, it's a good point, Kelly. And again, I don't want to be overly prescriptive. If someone's got a great idea, they've got to most definitely be able to articulate their vision for how that idea will be realized and what the outputs are going to be. Because again, there's a lot of information in the guidance. If people on the call have had a chance to look at that about the kind of outputs and so on. I mean, the CoSTAR project is really designed to produce tangible output. So and again, what you've just sort of articulated there, Vincent, for instance, we can say that there's a background there, there's an idea and a vision, and I suppose what we can bring to the table is that element of we've got all the kit and we've got the people who can bring that vision to life. So again, without being overly prescriptive about what stage in your own development you need to be successful here, it's all about the idea, the vision, and the likelihood of us getting a tangible output at the end of the project. Hopefully that helps.
That's fantastic. Is there anyone else in the audience that's got any questions that you would like to ask? Feel free to turn your camera on, put your hand up, or again, drop it anywhere. Sometimes with Teams, it's very hard to see the Q&A button, so you can also put it in the chat if not possible. Another question for the team is the 2 1-week sprints. Are those dates set? How do companies navigate that? And what if they're not close to your lab? Can they still apply?
I can take that one, or Lindsay, do you want to pick that one up?
I mean, we're obviously running the projects from September till the end of November, so the 2 1-week sprints so far aren't set in stone, and I think we will work with the companies as long as it fits within that time frame of September to November. And then what was the second question, Kylie? Sorry, just if they're not close to the Screen Lab.
Yes.
Frank, I'm not sure. Sorry, is there any? I'm not sure if there's a travel stipend with this call.
There is. Yeah, and again, Becky and Kelly, you might go into some more detail towards the end of this call, but there is a travel stipend for companies that are based outside of Northern Ireland, and we can be flexible, as I say, to make sure that the 2 1-week sprints work with whoever the successful applicants are going to be. I suppose one thing to flag that is really critical here is that as I've mentioned right at the start of the call, the CoSTAR Screen Lab is based right at the heart of what is a very large commercial facility. So a lot of the times we're I wouldn't say restricted, but we need to be aware and conscious of the fact that there will most likely be very high profile, very secure productions taking place in the rest of the building. And sometimes we just got to work around that. But it's the building was designed in a very specific way to make sort of concurrent different productions and activities available at the same time in the facility. But again, that's just something you got to be aware of. You're walking into a very highly secure live virtual production film set for most of the time.
And I'll just add as well on the travel. stipend, yes. So the details are in the call brief document, but I believe it's if you're based more than a 2-hour travel away from the lab, then there's up to £4,000 that you can access to help with travel. And I think that's just a really important point to underscore. Obviously, CoSTAR is a network. We have labs across the UK, but we are a national network. Each of those labs has their own specialisms, and some will be better suited to some companies than others. But please don't let geography be a barrier to you. And if you think that it will be for any reason, then there is of course that travel stipend. But please do reach out to us if you think that's an issue in any other way, because we want to help lower that barrier to entry as much as possible.
I think we're getting a really clear message from Screen Lab, which I think is fantastic, that they don't want to be too prescriptive. They're really looking for new ideas and looking to see the creative ways that you might want to use the technology within the labs, which is really fantastic. I think that would be quite a unique part of the CoSTAR offering across all the labs and across all the networks, is just about that level of risk and opportunity that everyone is interested in pursuing. Just regarding that, though, could you talk about IP? Who owns the IP if I come into the lab? And what size, can I be a freelancer creative, or what's the eligibility requirements? It is all in the documentation, but it's worth mentioning on this webinar for people who just might want a refresher on some of those points.
Yeah, okay. I think I see, is there a hand up before I come in? Is Vincent? He's highlighted here, but maybe not. No. So yeah, I mean, I can speak to that briefly. As you say, Kylie, I mean, all the fine detail on IP and so on will be in the call documents. So ultimately we work on that premise that the IP remains with the creators of the IP, which in most cases here will be the companies that we're going to be working with. So, but there are other variations on that that companies need to be aware of, and they can do their own homework on that. So yeah, I mean, fairly standard IP conditions in terms of companies that would work with universities and so on. Nothing really that's unusual in there. And in terms of like the scale, again, there's very specific detail around, researchers and sole traders can be part of the process, but only limited companies can apply. And there's another call open at the minute, and I think there's been 1 or 2 instances where we've got a really well developed, very innovative project, but it's essentially a single person startup and they haven't incorporated the company yet. So that might be just a wee bit of a blockage that we need to work through. So again, that's it in a nutshell. We're trying to be as flexible as possible.
Fantastic. That's great. I really appreciate that, Frank. Is there anyone else out there that would like to ask any other questions before we start to wrap up? Most quiet audience. Usually there's very highly technical questions. There we go. Andrea, how are you? Love to hear your question.
Hi, I'm fine. I suspect, Kylie, that people, if they haven't, I think Vincent was very bold in that he kind of just put his idea out there, and often creatives don't like to do that in these kind of scenarios. So that might be why everyone's a wee bit quiet. I also think that there's I'm slightly rabbit in the headlights with this idea. I must say, I mean, BP is something that I really feel really passionately about. Is there, and it's not easy to drop in to Belfast, for most people. Is there any way that we could maybe have a virtual tour of the facility or any other information about it? Would that be possible?
Yeah, I come in on that, Andrea. As I mentioned before, our work and the work of the company we're going to appoint here to this particular call will be mostly focused in the CoSTAR R&D lab, the Screen Lab itself, which is, as I mentioned, part of a much wider facility. The problem with the wider facility is that it's incredibly secure and very high profile productions are working in this space at the minute. So we can't just sort of drop people in as easily as we might like. But we can probably pull together. I mean, we do have a virtual tour of the facility that we could probably put up online at some point. And if we did round up enough people with interest in maybe having a tour, we could maybe sort of gather enough people together. I don't know, Lindsay, if you wanted to comment on that, but I mean that's part of the issue of having a very, very much in demand new virtual production facility. That's the kind of problem we want to have, but of course it doesn't really address the kind of curiosity that you would have to sort of go in and see around.
Yeah, just to get a sense of the what's actually there, in more in a different way from just reading it, if you know what I mean. It sort of makes you think differently.
Absolutely. I don't know, is Kieran on the call yet? Kieran Gibson.
Just looking there, he is here now. I'm not sure.
I am indeed.
Hi, Kieran.
Yes, the camera's broken, unfortunately, but no, it was great to hear that, Andrea, because I think that's something that we could definitely do. I think we could just get, even if it's like a video of someone going through the space and experience in the space, so that we can post that video through our socials and website, or send it directly to you, that you can get an idea of what the actual facilities are like. So I think that's a great idea, and that's something we can take away and action.
Yeah.
Frank, definitely. I've got a follow-up for you that you'll not like, because you obviously at this stage in the commission you want to keep it really wide, so that people will not feel, you don't want to be prescriptive in any way, so that people will come with all sorts of ideas. But it would be really useful to know what your criteria for a successful project would be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've probably alluded to some of them already, Andrea, without maybe being specific. But we as I mentioned before, it's got to be innovative. I mean, it's looking and probably applications of 5G in the creative industries. It's not that hard to be innovative because it's very, very much still an untapped area. But it's got to have a realistic timeline that we can work to, and most definitely a realistic expectation that we can produce something tangible, whether it's a proof of concept, or whether it's something along those lines at the end of the time frame. I mean, it's a fairly short duration. It's a quick burst. It's a 3-month project essentially. So I suppose that would probably be the biggest challenge, to make sure that we can realize something at the end of 3 months. But as I say, we've got the expertise, we've got the facilities there. It's about you bringing the vision, the idea, and I suppose in order to realize that, if it's too broad an idea, it's probably going to be quite tricky to realize. But if it's something slightly more focused, as I say, we're not being prescriptive, but we would encourage focused ideas and focused work plans. And I think if I'm making an application, that's really what I'm going to be looking at, that there's real kind of focus and detail in the actual application, and just looking for that idea of innovation, without reinventing the wheel. I mean, that example that Vincent presented at the start there is really interesting, because okay, it's working through areas that might have been explored in detail, but with different sets of technologies and possibly different outcomes. So, but that can still be very, very innovative in terms of how it's dealt with and what the outputs look like and sound like, as a result of the applications of 5G.
Yeah.
Does that help?
So innovation, high concept, and deliverable.
And deliverable, yeah.
And I would also.
Oh, sorry. Hello. I just wanted to add in as well that if you have a wee look at the application form, I think there's 3 key parts there that will guide a successful application, which is problem, solution, and commercialization of your idea. So, you need to be able to identify a problem that your idea with 5G can solve, and then how that can be commercialized, and enter the market in the future as well. And I think if you really try and stick to that, Andrea, the problem, solution, and commercialization aspect, that's sort of how you'll guide your project to be successful.
Could I just speak to also the application process and the assessment process? A lot of companies ask, can I run my idea by you, and you tell us if it fits or not? And to that level of detail, I think it's quite difficult for the labs to speak that specifically to people. So we really do encourage you to submit your application. One of the reasons for that is there are going to be many more future calls and ways to access the labs in the future. So if this isn't right, it's not like you will be judged harshly on that. It may in fact lead the labs to have a different call or a future opportunity that better meets some of the needs of the applications that we see coming in. The other thing is that we don't want you to spend hours and days and days and days. This isn't an Innovate UK very extensive, large grant. As the lab has spoken to, it's a short amount of funding and a short amount of time for new and innovative ideas. So please bear that in mind. We've allowed per question 500 words, but 300 words or less would still be suffice. We didn't want to restrict people. And for example, there is a question that asks for a sort of plan and costing, so schedule and budget, for want of a better word, but where it says the words high level. There's no opportunity to upload detailed schedules, detailed documents. You may in fact want to discuss that and with Lindsay and Frank and the team and work out what your schedule is, but just that you can demonstrate that it's feasible and deliverable. So you put a few of your key time frames and budgets in there. Also, your applications will be assessed by independent assessors that we have gone to an extensive process to recruit. So that it's a completely independent assessment process as well. I don't know if Frank or Lindsay, you have anything to add to that, but I just wanted to give people some sort of perspective on the applications, and people's worry about them, everything being perfect and complete in that way.
Thanks, Kelly. And I think a point that Andrea made right at the very start of what she was talking about there, that idea of, in a situation like this, people probably need to be quite protective of their idea, because they have the IP on it at this point in time. But when it gets to the application stage, I mean, I don't know if people on the call have managed to have a look at the assessment criteria yet, but if I could just read through the bullet points just for clarity. The assessment criteria that the independent assessors will use, it's essentially the problem that your innovation seeks to address needs to be well defined. That's the point that Lindsay was speaking to. The proposed solution is clear and achievable. The specific R&D focus and/or innovation of the project is novel and well articulated. Proposed solution has strong commercial value with an appropriate route to market. Project team has strong leadership and a range of skills and experience needed to deliver the project. So again, that's the point. That's a slightly different point that's really critical when you start to articulate what your team's going to bring to the table as well. I think that needs to be clear, and maybe how it would align and draw upon the kind of academic investigator expertise that we bring to the table. The project management plan and approach to risk management is appropriate and achievable. The request for CoSTAR support is clear and reasonable. There's clear rationale for why CoSTAR support is required. And the project is of clear value to performance and/or screen sectors. And there's a strong approach to engaging with social impact. And I think, Becky, are you going to speak to that in any more detail? Because I think that's a critical thing, the whole idea of the engagement with social impact, EDI and/or environmental sustainability needs to be very clearly articulated in the applications.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. Yes, and yeah, so there is a specific question around your approach to EDI and sustainability. We are looking for companies who engage with this in some way, but equally, it's an opportunity for you to talk about what you are looking to do, but indeed any support you think you might need with that as well. So as a program, it's something we're looking to do more and more to support EDI and sustainability across the projects that we do in the sector. So yeah, please do have a look at that question. But if you have any further questions on it, please do drop us a line about it, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Becky, Rupert has a question. Are you okay to just ask your question, Rupert? Just seeing if Rupert can.
Sure thing.
There you go.
Sure thing. Yeah, thank you. And just to give a little bit of context before I ask my question, I saw about this webinar yesterday when I already had a clashing meeting. So there's been parts of this that I've not heard. So forgive me if I'm asking something that has already been addressed. I've just had the chance to jump back into this call. I just wanted to particularly ask on so you've said very clearly that this is for projects that will support the performance and screen sectors. How are you defining the performance sector particularly? Just so I've got a good feel as to whether we're a fit or not.
That's a good question. Well, Frank, do you want to speak to, because the CoSTAR program more generally does focus on screen and performance sectors. This particular call has a screen focus. Is that correct, Frank?
Yeah, it's more of a screen focus, but once we do see potential applications without giving too much away for more performance orientated applications of 5G in a virtual production lab or in a mocap lab, for instance. So it's really broad, Becky. Whilst the screen focus is there, there is that breadth that we would like to bring to the thinking around this. So Rupert, have you any specific ideas, or could you be more specific with your sector or what you're potentially looking at?
For sure, yeah, and thanks for that explanation already there. And I also noted at the start of the talk, which I was in, there was quite a strong emphasis on your very impressive technical facilities in Belfast, whereas, we're probably not at the end of the spectrum where we haven't at least been using that kind of high, sort of deeper infrastructural tech for filming. So we're in this call from Setmaker, myself and Stefanos, our creative producer, and we are a software platform that allows people to geolocate filmed material for creating interactive tours in a really easy way. So performance artists and performance companies are an ideal client because it allows them to create digitized screen-based content in a way they couldn't before. And it's a sort of, very great, nice way of getting people to explore physical environments. I don't want to say too much, but I'm not sure if that's a fit from what we've heard. But any clarification you can give is.
I think it most definitely could be, Rupert. I'll maybe bring Gerard, my colleague, in on this, who has been sort of thinking about potential applications, and I'm sure that might have entered his head. Gerard, can you speak to this one?
Yeah, hi Rupert. No, it's great. I think I understand roughly the sort of sector that you're in. We were always about the idea of unleashing virtual production outside of the studio and going to remote locations, hence the 5G and the portable 5G networks. So your project or potential project sounds like something we would like to have a look at. It's exploring beyond the walls of Studio Ulster and getting out into the wild, as it were. So I think there's definitely potential there.
Okay, that's really great to hear, and thanks for sharing so clearly. I mean, in terms of our background, like myself and Stefanos both come from performing arts backgrounds in the UK, both institutions and festivals, and Stefanos is a senior professional dancer as well as a creative producer. A follow-up question then would be, are you more inclined towards technologically led pitches, or are partnerships particularly attractive? Like if a company came in with technology and an industry partner and a desire to engage with your capabilities, would that be a better sell? Should we go out and try and find partners in the coming weeks?
It would most definitely be attractive, Rupert, but again, it's really down to you to make that call. Do you think, as you stand at the minute with your existing team, could interact to a level with the expertise and the technology that we have to realize your vision, or do you think you might need to bring your own partner to the table to maybe speak the language that some of the experts on the call would speak? We'll leave that totally up to you, but either way, it's attractive as long as the vision and the potential output is clear.
Great, thank you.
Some companies might want to come in with their partners because they want to maximize what they get out of the labs. Other people may want to come into the labs and identify what they need to do in order to secure the partners they need to going forward. But those thinking process and the decisions, if you articulate them in your application, I think would be what would be most beneficial. Would that be right to say, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think there's definitely potential here, Rupert.
And thanks all. These are really helpful comments. And then just to check again, is after this, and again, sorry if I've missed this, is there an opportunity between now and the deadline to check in with the CoSTAR team again, just to sort of share where we're up to with our thinking and review that against your objectives, and again, think about possible partners and that kind of thing? Or is this it, just from now
Kelly
on?
or Lindsay, I think you've got your hand up. Lindsay?
Yeah, I would just come to that, Rupert, and say obviously we wouldn't have the resources to have sort of like one-to-ones with every applicant. And it would be sort of there's a risk there of, if we go through everyone's ideas, that
Sure.
we could end up obviously sort of biasly encouraging some people and not others, or maybe we don't quite understand your idea and then we discourage you from applying, when actually when we received the application it could have been great. So we can't unfortunately go through every single applicant and their idea. However, if there's anything you're unsure of in terms of eligibility with your idea, or you just want to double check something in terms of due diligence with your application, then please do send through your questions to the pilot and program email. And if it's Screen Lab specific, or if you want to check something about our technology and will it suit your idea, that's absolutely fine, and the team at the pilots and programming team will forward that to us. So more of a check-in is absolutely fine, but we just don't have the resources, and of course we wouldn't want to be biased towards any company to go through everyone's idea individually.
For sure. Now, I'm wary of hogging the mic here if others have got questions. I have other questions I could ask, but maybe I'll just pause for a moment and just check there isn't anyone else who wants to check in.
I think that's okay. We're closely coming to an end shortly, but while we've got people, we're really happy to ask questions. And I'm just popping that email address in to the chat so that people can access that again. And if the questions are, what do you mean by this question, or something like that, put your questions in and into the emails, and we'll respond. But I think, Rupert, if you've got a couple more questions, go ahead while we're here.
So yeah, I'd just love to ask to this idea of the sort of taking the studio out there, which is a really exciting prospect. What does that involve? And again, forgive me if I've missed that, but are there sort of essentially equipment that's owned by CoSTAR or sort of leasable by CoSTAR that can increase film capabilities using 5G around different locations in the country? Or am I misreading that?
No. So that's for you, Gerard and Adnan, I think.
Yeah, maybe perhaps Adnan could speak to the 5G portable solution.
Yeah, hi, Robert. So I think it's an interesting question, and sometimes it gets a bit confusing what exactly we mean when we want to take sort of a studio outside. So the first thing is, if you look at it into more layer based or architecture based, we have our media gear. So imagine it's just a camera. And then the question is, you want to take live or whatever means you want to generate the content, you want to stream back to the studio, you would need kind of networks. Now, we, last couple of weeks, we were part of the DCIT funded project, and we have looked after a very extreme worst case scenario where we're looking at what if we don't have the optical fiber. So I think once we don't have the optical fiber, the life is slightly different because normally the network side of it as well, you can connect to a certain network, but if you don't have the backhaul, like of an optical fiber or some other mean, then you won't able to access the internet. And of course, you can't send the information which you want to send from point A to point B. So what we did, we added an additional layer, which has an integration of satellites plus public networks as well. Although we are more inclined toward the satellite side because we were trying to exercise the worst case scenario. What if we don't have any 4G or standard 5G signals available? I'm talking about more specifically on the backhaul side. I think it's a less challenging in terms of connecting a device to a network, but backhaul is more trouble. So we have a very interesting solution on the backhaul side of it as well. Now, the other side of this is if you want to have a portable 5G, who would carry it? Are we looking at, let's say, a truck, or are we looking at a helicopter, or are we looking for someone they can put the 5G kit at the back of their boot? So this was from last probably over 12 months, we've been trying to fight with the technology, resources, and the company and everyone. So the solution we have is very portable. So that means that we don't need to have a technical knowledge to operate 5G. Of course, we will be with the team, whoever wants to do the remote kind of a transmission and the streaming. It's not massive in terms of the size. It doesn't take significant amount of time that you would need a half day to put everything together, to put the cabling and everything. So ideally, you're looking at maximum of 1 hour, as long as you have a power source, battery, and the network should be up and running. And with the assumption that we don't have any issue with the satellites and everything, it should be pretty much straightforward, plug and play kind of a solution. So it's lightweight, it's very portable, it's easy to carry from point A to point B, and it's operable from the battery sources. So it should be pretty much straightforward. So I'll leave to Gerard to touch upon the next point.
Yeah, thanks, Adnan. So then, Rupert, I suppose everything around this 5G connectivity is sort of traditional, as it were. So we have cameras that are 5G enabled using encoders. We've recently experimented with cloud-based decoders, which means that we can encode the signal, for example, from a camera, use the 5G to get to the internet, and then use our proprietary server to sort of decode that and submit it to, say, streaming on iPhones for producers to have a look at live streams, or stream to the virtual production LED wall, where we can put it up on the wall and do some very interesting collaborative work with seeing a live stream in virtual production in real time. So the 5G is really an enabler to allow us to connect all these things together. And then a layer on top of that, we have all the robotic camera systems. So we have PTZ cameras, and then we have arms, robotic arms as well, that can be remotely controlled from either on the set or remotely from far away. Or if you're getting even more technical, we can layer in Unreal Engine, the video game engine, to allow virtual operators to have basically a virtual version of your set and have virtual camera operators, as it were. So yeah, quite a lot of layers of technology, and we've sort of built this very generic, not generic is the wrong word, sort of an open, flexible set of solutions and hardware to allow us to do lots of creative things.
Okay, thank you both for very thorough explanations, and yeah, lots of layers beyond my own ken, as well as knowing what we do use and experience. So I think that's also just good to understand in terms of the collaborative nature we'd look to engage with CoSTAR to explore what's possible, I think, while still working to our vision and idea.
Yes, the co in CoSTAR is convergence, but I've also just redefined it as collaborative. I think it's going to be all of those things as we go along. So I'll let you wrap up there, Adnan, and then I'll move on to Becky and Frank just to follow up with some greater detail, with some general detail to wrap up the webinar. Go ahead, Adnan.
Yeah, just a quick point to add. So if you really want to go extremely low level, we do have the resources to test. And if you want to play with the network and a certain specification from waveform at the very physical layer of it, you want to change certain parameter, you want to try something completely, as Frank mentioned, blue sky, that can also be done. But I guess we need to sort of align with the timeline. Because it's a short window project, but again, it's a catalyst, so it can create a more opportunity for much bigger version of the use case which you are thinking, or some of other colleagues are thinking as well. So it can be done. We do have resources to test, deploy, and configure, and see how things work outside the studio.
Lovely.
I hope this makes sense.
And then
Thank you so much.
people will start to get to know the labs a little better as we go along, and there will be other opportunities if you don't feel like this one is right for you or you're not quite ready. Also, I'm sure there'll be more opportunities to get into each of the labs, and including Screen Lab. I mean, I know for sure there is going to be. So, and hopefully the virtual tour and a bit more information of what is available in the labs, and this webinar will have helped with people understanding that. So thank you. Becky, Frank, any last comments? And then I might hand to Becky to finish up.
Nothing specific, Kylie. I think we've covered a lot of ground there. It's great to have those questions and discussions with hopefully people who are potential applicants. So let's see, look forward to getting to work on the call.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to just sort of a bit of general wrap up. We're really excited to be launching these calls. I think just for a bit of context, the CoSTAR project, it's funded by UK Research and Innovation, and it's a very new way of supporting creative industries R&D in the UK through the development of this infrastructure. And in the last few months, we've as a network, we've launched 3 physical lab spaces. There's a 4th to open next year. This is the 4th of 4 calls we've done in the last few months. So we're really excited to start getting people into these spaces and start engaging with industry and see people respond to these challenges. But as Kylie's already pointed out, this won't be the last. There will be plenty more of these opportunities to come. So thank you for joining us today. Thanks for engaging with this call, and we hope that you stay in touch for future calls that come out as well. I don't know if we can just share the last 2 slides, if that's possible. I just want to just end on the dates for your diary. So obviously the call is open now, and it closes on Thursday the 22nd of May. And I think we spoke a bit earlier to the project duration, but it's a 3-month duration from the 1st of September to the 30th of November. But as Frank alluded to, within that we'll be a bit flexible to help companies into the lab space. And your application will be assessed, and you'll hear from us within 8 weeks of the closing date. And then the last slide, I think we're seeing, we're missing one. I just wanted to say that there is a newsletter that you can join, and there are different ways of engaging with us online as well, through LinkedIn and through our other channels. So please do give us a follow so you can listen out for other opportunities as they come out, which will be happening the next few months. And I think that's it for today. So we'll wrap up. Thank you again for joining us, and we really look forward to seeing your applications.